I propose that we then give the floor to our representative from IDRC, who's going to give a solidarity message. Greg, you must be online there. Yes, thank you.
Okay, that's good. Thanks very much, Peter, and thanks, Celia, for a great presentation. On the tail end of that presentation and the reference to Informus work and the food systems dashboard, yes, I hear you in relation to the need for the coming together of these communities. One thing, and I'm not immediately familiar with the latest developments on the food systems dashboard, apart from what's been presented in the last couple of days. But one challenge with that is that it requires data from a minimum number of countries to be able to meet the needs of the food systems dashboard, and the number of countries that have provided consistent data from Informus doesn't meet that criteria. So it's kind of hard to bring all that good information into the dashboard. But people are working on that, and it's certainly worth pursuing some more. So that's it. Hi everyone, I'm Greg Hallen. I'm a team leader for the Climate Resilient Food Systems program at Canada's International Development Research Centre. Amos asked me to provide something of a perspective from IDRC, and also to give something of a solidarity message. I'm not quite sure what that implies, but I'm going to take a stab at it. Thanks, Peter and Silver as our chief facilitators, and everyone on the organising team for the Food Environment Research Network. This has been a really great 3 days, or nearly 3 days, and I think it's a fantastic initiative that needs to continue in bringing together this community of learning. And IDRC's been in a very privileged position to be able to support a lot of the work by FERN and its members and other networks throughout the world who are focusing on food environment research and trying to change, indeed, those policies that will create more supportive food environments for consumers. It's been inspiring and very encouraging to see the work that's been done and to see it developing over the years. IDRC has been supporting this kind of work in all regions of the world for over 10 years now, and more and more people are coming on board and contributing to this space of food systems. A lot of great diversity of inputs, and you can see that from the work that's being done in Africa at the moment, and we can see the community building and the sharing of learning, and this has to continue. I want to note that the Food Environment Research Network that's been part of this last few days is also a network of networks. There are other networks also, of course. There's the Repsol network I want people to be aware of in West Africa, primarily led by Adama Diouf at the University of Sheikh Anta Diop in Dakar in Senegal. This is more of a francophone network, and I think we try and connect these two networks too, and there is certainly some communication between the two. But there's a lot to be learned on the work that's being done in West Africa as well. And of course, there's the ANH Academy, who held the conference back in June in Malawi. And many of the participants in this meeting were there. And if you weren't, take a look at the work that's being done through the ANH Academy and the Amana program. There's a lot of overlap. So onto the solidarity message, and how I can be encouraging and more supportive from IDRC. One thing I want to note is that there are very few countries that could be said to be in the lead on the issues that we've been discussing the past couple of days. And if they're in the lead, they're not far ahead. There has not really been any country that has truly significantly changed their trajectory in addressing the global syndemic of obesity, undernutrition, and climate change. There may have been some clever research done, and we're hearing about that. There's been some good advocacy, And there's just been a handful of notable policy wins that we're all trying to learn from, to replicate and build from. But the trajectory to where we need to be hasn't changed to a point that's really worth celebrating yet. So the point I'd like to make is that the opportunity is there for countries and regions like Africa to actually lead the way. When you think about the work that's been done and presented over the past few days, it's not just encouraging and inspiring, it's a demonstration of leadership from Africa and what more can be done. So organizing around this community is really important, and the connecting between regions is really important. But I really see that there's some great work that can be given more platforms to be able to communicate globally about what is being done, and for some policy wins that are soon to come in Africa, I think, to be leading the way. So that's a really strong positive message I'd like to send. So continuing to build this community of like-minded people who have shared principles and goals. We need to do this in order to go faster. And I raised a question in the chat on Wednesday about, when we were discussing the nutrient profiling work and the collaboration that's going on between a few countries on double duty policy bundles and the importance of sharing data and experiences and trying to find shortcuts, because this work is taking years so far. But as more and more people do it and more people share their experiences and their data, hopefully we'll find shortcuts and learn and have new crazy ideas about how to get there faster with our food rating systems and the policies that need to shape consumer food environments. Now I'd just like to go through three things that I think we need to challenge ourselves on. The first one is, as we build our own like-minded community that's working on food environment research, we need to remember that this community remains a very small one in the food systems space. The food systems continues to be dominated by those who are mostly focused on food production systems. So while we're building our own networks with like-minded people and organizations, and particularly on shared objectives around public health nutrition, how about we try more to extend our influence in other food systems discussions, including among those who are focused on production and supply systems. And one example of that, I suggest, is the African Food Systems Forum, formerly the African Green Revolution Forum. Now, this forum held every September. There's a wide range of stakeholders there. This past one in September, there were 5,000 people who got together in Dar es Salaam. And I would suggest there's no other food systems forum that has so many high-level government and political representatives coming together from the continent. Now, I understand the hesitancy some people may have because it doesn't feel like our community. There's a risk of encountering conflicts of interest because businesses and food industry are represented there, and there may be some uncomfortable relationships that we're encouraged to explore. But unless we participate in these forums, we're not going to influence them. And this group has a lot to offer and can really have some positive impact in forums like those. And perhaps there are many others to look. And I think we'll find allies there as well. So I think that really extend our reach. The other point, a completely separate point I'd like to make in relation to the work that we're all doing, is to continue to question ourselves on how we're addressing gender and equity in the research that we do. And and ensuring that we're leaving no one behind in the work that we support. What more can be done? Let's just continue to challenge ourselves. It's not easy. And I know it's already on people's minds, and we're doing our best to integrate gender and gender equality and other equity issues into the research. But it is about improving the quality of our research and the outcomes that we're pursuing, including policy adoption. At the very least, we must make sure that the work is not gender blind, and IDRC has a commitment not to fund gender blind research. So just putting that out there, and we can't afford to reinforce negative inequalities through our neglect of them. So I just thought that's my second main challenge. Another one is around ensuring our, strengthening our messaging around the relevance of the research we do. And that includes in forums like this, where I encourage that every presentation must speak to its relevance in the local context. Not just what it's contributing to our academic field, but what it adds to the local context and how research has been conceived of, developed, and conducted in partnership with local stakeholders. And when we're presenting it, give evidence of the opportunities the research is creating for positive change. We can't lament the slow pace of change if we're going to conceive of research and conduct it without that close engagement of local stakeholders and the users of the research. And I think you all agree publication is simply not good enough. So let's even when we're presenting and speaking in forums like this, make sure that we're putting it in the context, in the local context, and talking about the people who have been involved in its use. So they were my main messages. Mostly, I really want to be positive and encouraging, and also mention how IDRC has a long-term commitment to supporting further food systems and food environment research in Africa and other regions. And we want to create more platforms for interaction between researchers and advocates and users of research, so that there's more visibility for it and greater opportunities for learning. I know our colleagues at the Rockefeller Foundation, who we're currently in partnership with in funding work in Africa, are of a like mind in this regard, and we're going to continue challenging ourselves on the things I've just been mentioning, and also to advocate for further funding and for the work that's being done with other funders as well, as we get into discussions with them, and we want to find ways to give you profile in those discussions as well. So they're my main messages. Hopefully that's something of a solidarity message. It's been terrific being part of and listening in on the FERN discussions these days. And thanks very much, Peter.
Thanks so much, Greg, for those indeed very important messages. I think most of us are pretty much cognizant of the important role of IDRC and the contribution that your agency has played in funding lots of research in this field. For one, I was pretty much impressed by the amount of funding that was made available and the targeted funding even to specific research groups. So I know you guys are doing a lot of work in this area. If I hear you correctly, indeed, there is need for more, probably what could be seen as integrated knowledge translation, or the reporting thereof, or documenting and putting in place some platforms, if you want, maybe knowledge brokerage, to be able to prove the level of influence that is, or the engagement that is going on with stakeholders. And I know that many of us are certainly engaging with them, many policy stakeholders, but indeed it's also, as what you said, there's a huge conflict of interest, of course, with probably agribusiness and you know, the main corporate players. So indeed, for us to engage in platforms such as Africa Food Systems Forum, I would be interested to see how many people would be interested, as you say, are eager to participate in such a forum, given the level of even how the Food Systems Summit was already being criticized for being taken over by corporates. So what is happening at a regional or local level? And is there a space for us to engage there as researchers? I'm very much aware that we have to learn the skills of how to influence a policy field. So that is indeed something that might be that we might put on the agenda in terms of capacity building locally and regionally, doing some more, you know, development work there in terms of giving people the power and the tools to be able to advocate for changes and even stand up against powerful players and actors in that field. Those are my impressions. I don't know if anybody else has anything to share at this point, because I think this is very important, a very important discussion. That Amos is he's currently on a plane, so he's unable to participate in this discussion. But anyone else, please let us know if you want to comment. If not, I see, okay, we've reached the end of this time slot. I suggest we take a short break, and thanks so much, Greg, for being there, for sharing your insights and your
Sure, you're very welcome. And yeah, I'll be hanging around for the remainder of the session this afternoon.
Perfect.
Hearing all of it. Yeah, thanks.
Thanks so much, Greg.
Right, see you.